Is your marriage showing subtle signs of trouble? How do you know that your marriage is failing? What are the red flags to pay attention to, right? You might not even realize it, but it's in the small moments that the warning signs are hiding. In this video, we're going to dive into the day-to-day signs that your marriage needs help before it's too late, and make sure that you too don't become part of that awful 50% divorce rate statistic. So, how do you know your marriage is really in trouble and it's time to get help? There's so much advice out there about when to turn to marriage coaching or therapy and how to know if your marriage is beyond repair because it's been on life support for far too long. There's a lot of talk about that, but a lot of that advice focuses and talks about it at the big picture level, right? It's poor communication, it's feeling disconnected, we're not making each other a priority, we're fighting all the time, there's an addiction. While those might be helpful insights, today I want to zoom in and talk about the day-to-day signs that show up when your marriage is in trouble. How do you know, as in right now, that it's time to seek help? What does dysfunction actually look like in your everyday life? Because if the advice is too general, right, it can be hard to connect with. So I want to share some very real examples that show up when a marriage is struggling. One or two or all three of these are moments that I have experienced myself in my marriage with my husband. So here goes. Exhibit A, and I'm calling this the avoidance game. It's a random Monday. Your meeting at work finishes early, so you decide to head home. You drive up your street and see your spouse's car in the driveway. Instead of feeling excited, you think to yourself and say, dang, and keep driving right past your house. You head to a coffee shop or run an errand instead that you didn't even need to run, just to avoid going home. You're avoiding being alone with your spouse. The air is thick, the tension is real as all get out, and you don't want to deal with it. If that's becoming your new normal, well, that's one of the clear signs that your marriage is in trouble. Does that sound familiar? Exhibit B, the solo celebration. Your spouse makes plans with friends, and they are heading out after dinner. You find yourself excited, not just because you get some time alone, but because you won't have to tiptoe around them for the rest of the night in your own house. You plan on putting the kids to bed, and now it's just you, free to do whatever you want without feeling judged or awkward. But as soon as that smile hits your face, guilt also creeps in. You feel guilty for being happy that they're gone, right? That mixture of relief and guilt, that's a huge red flag. When being apart feels like a vacation, it's time to acknowledge that something is off. Do you see yourself in this one? Let me know in the comments. All right, here's Exhibit C. Planning your escape. That's what I'm calling this one. You're planning a spring break trip for you and for the kids, and you purposely don't book a ticket for your spouse. It wasn't an oversight. You made that choice because the idea of going on vacation with your spouse right now feels exhausting. You'd rather handle literally everything solo, right? Going back to single parenting, even if that means dragging the kids and all their belongings by yourself. If planning a trip without your spouse sounds better than going together, that's another time to look at what's going on. So, how are we doing? Are any of these scenarios hitting home for you? What's your best guess? For me, remember what I said? Which ones do you think I have been guilty of? Is it Exhibit A, Exhibit B, or Exhibit C? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. I have been there myself, more than once, believe it or not. I have been the one to keep driving past our house just to avoid going inside. I have wondered what the neighbors are going to think, right? Because they're going to recognize my car. And try to figure out what I'm going to say in response if they dare to ask. I have felt that joy and guilt combo when my husband made plans that didn't involve me. And even though we're both smart, we're both educated people, we had to get help. The truth is, no matter how smart or how successful you are, your marriage relationship is a one-of-a-kind kind of relationship. And it takes work, but you knew that already. And sometimes it takes help. If you have been wondering how much longer you can go on like this, that might also be your sign. Your gut is telling you that it's time. The only question now is, what are you going to do about it? Will you stand up for this marriage of yours and get the help that it needs before it's too late? Whatever you do, don't wait too long. I have seen way too many couples here in my office on this couch ignore that little voice telling them to get help, and it always ends in regret. If you don't believe me, I spill all the beans. I share the single biggest mistake that couples make and how to avoid it. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. So I'll see you in there.